This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Eldorado Gaming. Eldorado Gaming is your site for gifts and gaming accessories like dice, playmats, and other items to bling out your games. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Find us on YouTube at Eldorado Gaming TX or our home site at eldoradogaming.com. Here at My Mythical Meta, we talk about gaming with friends and strangers, resolving conflicts, and keeping game nights fun, interesting, and recurring. Our game of choice is Magic the Gathering, but our hope is that what we share is relevant for board gamers, RPG groups, video gamers, and maybe even your poker night. I'm Travis, and with my brother Benjamin and my friends Derek and Randy, we've been playing Magic together since 2014. The secret to a healthy meta is not in the game you play, it's being good friends. Subscribe to My Mythical Meta, presented by Eldorado Gaming, wherever you get your podcasts. Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. My name is Travis, and I'm joined this week by the entire Mythical Meta crew. We've got my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
My two best friends, Randy.
Howdy.
And Derek. The entire crew is here. Derek, that noise sounds like a duck quacking.
Right?
And I wouldn't normally think that, but I have an almost 2-year-old, and we're all about animal noises right now.
Have you ever seen the meme? It's the little kid like covered in peanut butter. It's like, does that feel good? It's like, So it always makes you think of it.
I've always wondered this. Why is it that we, as a society, have decided that one of the core things that kids need to learn is animal sounds?
Dude, I have no idea.
And it's not like, I've never heard a duck say quack. They go, or something.
Some weird variation.
Yeah.
Cows
I don't know.
are more like a sound.
Oh, don't make that sound. You're gonna scare Travis off the podcast.
Yeah, don't do cows, dude. Not cool. Yeah, Marin's gotten pretty good at her animal and jungle sounds.
Yeah, it's pretty cute hearing her do all
her farm and animal sounds.
Making cat meow noises whenever y'all were over.
I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but 2 weeks ago, we went on a vacation. We were in Fredericksburg, and we went to the Lyndon B. Johnson State Park, like a national park and state park. And there is a working farm on that property. And it was so cute to see Marin running around all of the real animals and pointing at them and calling out what they are and making the noises and touching them, and it was so adorable.
Aw.
Oh, that's nice.
I know.
Sweet baby Marin.
Sweet baby. Anybody else do anything cool over the last week?
Probably, but not that I remember.
Dang, how hammered were you? I'm kidding.
I was just exhausted. Oh, I remember. We went to I'm the debate coach, or one of the debate coaches at my school, and we took the kids to a high level tournament, and none of them have been to this type of tournament before, and we got destroyed basically. But but we had to stay because one team in the novice division made it all the way to finals. So everybody was sitting around like, oh, I'm done. I hate it. And we're staying for this one team that just refuses to lose. Which is good for them, team. Right? The novice team in the novice division. So I don't know how great of an accomplishment it was, but you know what? If
don't let those debaters hear this episode.
No, I should back up from that. Debaters, if you are listening to this, good job this weekend, and I hope you learned. In fact, I know you learned a lot because I've been coaching you this week as we work through all the things you learned, and I'm excited to take y'all to future high level tournaments. But this was probably a good eye-opener for them because we go to a lot of local tournaments, and our debaters do really well. And every single debater we took to the last tournament placed. They all got a medal or a trophy or something, and so it was like, they were all hot. I'm so good. And so it's like, all right, let's take you to this one and see how far we can go.
You're playing with the big boys now.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right, guys, I'll call you. Talk to y'all later.
Great call.
Yeah.
Good episode. No, we do have a topic for today. Today we're going to talk about hobby gatekeeping. Have any of you guys ever had someone who knew so much about their hobby that they made it unfun?
Yeah. Me.
Yeah. Yes.
Know him. I am him.
Of course course I know him. He's me. No.
Of course I
Because
know.
gatekeepers
He's me.
are the
That was
worst.
good, Benji.
Yeah.
Yeah, gatekeepers are absolutely the worst. There was a guy I went to college with who was just always reading Lord of the Rings stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like articles and what's the other book called? The
Silmarillion.
Silmarillion
Yep.
or whatever that's called. And like at that point I only barely knew what was in the movies. And like I know it's weird for me to be a D&D nerd who's never read Lord of the Rings, but it's true.
Hey, here's a hot take. It's not very fun reading those books.
What? I do like.
I'm
say it.
Still struggling through Fellowship of the Ring. I
don't need to know a
struggling through it.
person's entire bloodline just to get through a paragraph.
Yes. I am past 200 pages into Fellowship of the Ring, and I still have not met Aragorn, or Legolas, or Gimli. The 4 hobbits are still trying to get out of a forest where they met Tom Bombadil, who's not even in the movies.
Right.
So I've spent 200 pages being like, who is this guy? Why does he matter? And I'm sure he does matter.
You got to be careful. The Tom Bombadil fans are crazy.
I know, the Bombadilians are going to get me.
Bombadillos.
The Bombadillos, that's what we'll call them. But yeah, he was just like, it's people like that make it hard to like something.
Yeah.
Have any of you guys had that experience with something else?
Yeah. Part of us being part of Eldorado Gaming and going to conventions, conventions are places where a bunch of people who are really into something gather.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, there's so many things. There's Pokemon, there's Star Wars, there's Star Trek, there's D&D, there's Lord of the Rings, there's Harry Potter. There's just every single fandom you can possibly think
There's
of.
50 different anime shows that all have one season.
Right. Yes.
And it's like, I've watched 40 of them,
Right.
but I don't know the last 10. And they're like, you're not a true anime fan.
Right?
Get out of here.
Kind of reminds me of being back in middle school when it's like, oh, you like Linkin Park? Name 3 of their songs.
People still do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I know people are like this, I often don't buy merch or things that I enjoy because I don't know what's in the rest of the canon, and I don't want to be like, oh, did this person like turn evil in something I haven't read or whatever, and am I going to be judged because I'm wearing that person, or is somebody going to come up and be like, oh yeah, did you see what they did in season 3? And I'm going to be like, no, I just watched the first season and liked it.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to be judged for wearing something I don't know enough about, which is terrible. It's a terrible feeling to feel like I can't just have fun with the stuff I like because somebody.
You're letting them win.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about.
I mean,
Taking
Benjamin,
it
you and I were both teachers, and imagine the experience of like putting up a poster in your classroom and then a kid or, God forbid, a parent being like, oh, that character did something terrible in season 2.
Right?
It's like, oh,
That's right.
well, let me take it down.
That's why I'm very careful to only put up stuff where I know pretty much the entire canon. So it's Ninja Turtles, it's Pokemon, which I in fact I don't know anything about the later stuff, but it's Ash and Pikachu, so I figure that's pretty safe. And then I've got old Smash Brothers stuff.
Smeagol. Good old Smeagol. Fan favorite Smeagol.
No, I don't have Smeagol.
He's a good guy.
Derek,
First 2?
I think he bashes someone's head in the 3rd book.
Oh, I didn't get that far. Oh, dang it. The one time.
Cancel Derek.
Yeah, canceled. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about today is how to be a good fan of something and how to still welcome new players. So our first kind of brief topic is differentiating and talking about the differences between old and new players. I'm going to be saying players because we're a gaming podcast, but this really goes along with any fandom of something. Derek, start us off.
So one thing I do is I get really interested in something and I just like dig deep and just basically become an overnight expert. We ended up watching The Lord of the Rings for Travis's birthday in August.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even I like the movies. I don't like the books, and I couldn't tell you the last time I thought of it, but for some reason I knew a ton of stuff because I think at one point I was like super interested in it, and I was
we had watched Rings of Power, I want to say middle of last year also.
Yeah.
Was that right? Last summer?
Sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah.
or maybe December.
Yeah, I don't know. It would have been summer break or Christmas break for me, so I don't know.
Yeah, but anyways, I don't know. I just had a bunch of knowledge I didn't know I had, and it feels good. But I don't want to be annoying. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyways,
those aren't normal orcs. Those are the Uruk-hai, which are
actually
men
they're stronger and
combined with orcs,
and they're sun resistant.
so they can go out in the daylight while regular orcs and goblins can't.
Actually, if you pay attention to this scene, you could see.
Yeah.
Anyways, when you're an expert in something, it can be hard to, like, I guess, start over.
Yeah.
With beginner knowledge. I remember when Randy and I would play World of Warcraft, he had already, I think, gotten to max level, and I was starting out, and he was just kind of holding my hand through all of it to try to power level me up. And eventually, I had done that so many times that when it was time for me to do that for younger people, I'm like, I can't do it. I don't want to go back. I can't kill 8 boar all over again.
I don't want to fight boar anymore.
I'm out of patience. So that's not super helpful. It always helps to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this just a standard experience is that whenever you get good at something, you don't want to go back to the beginning anymore because you've been there, done that. So it can be boring or annoying to go back to the beginning, to go back to basics.
Yeah. The pride also comes from the payoff of all the time and effort you've spent at getting good or becoming knowledgeable. Like, people naturally want to show off. They want to be able to say, look how much I've read, look how much I've watched, because it is the culmination of so much time. You don't want your time to have been wasted. You don't want your effort to have been wasted. So if you can get some cred, or if you can make it matter that you watched every single Avengers IP, or you've been following the DC comics since the 40s or whatever. I'm probably gonna lose some credit on that because I don't know when DC came out, but
or like if
30s.
You've played every single Legend of Zelda game or anything like that,
right?
The Mario games.
Yeah, I mean that's a great example, right? So like if you become an expert at something, you want to show it off, and there's a bit of pride in that. If you have to go back to power it down, suddenly your expertise doesn't mean anything because it's not valued, right? It's when it goes from I can curb stomp you to I can't curb stomp you, or else it's bad manners. Like, that feels bad to kind of power down like that.
Yeah. So why does the way we treat new players matter? For example, we are all enfranchised Magic players. Why does it matter how we treat new players?
So, in order to keep playing your game, the companies that make it need to make money, and the best way for them to make money is to have new people join the hobby. And so, you shouldn't be gatekeeping your game, because if you want to make it feel like, oh, well, they haven't been through all the things I have, and so they shouldn't get to play the game or something like that,
right.
All you're going to do is hurt yourself, because unless you're super rich and you can afford to support that entire games industry on your own bank account, you and your people aren't going to be able to just keep it afloat. You need new players, new income, because people are always going to be leaving a game, so you always need to have people coming in. So if you're gatekeeping something you love, you're hurting it more than helping it.
Yeah.
It's kind of like you love it so much that you strangle it, and then someone's got to come and put you down.
And then the meta's going to roll up and put you down.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
The mythical meta is here.
So, it's just like, if you love a game, don't gatekeep. Encourage new people to come and play. You got to be a really positive aura or a positive force in something that you love to, keep it going so that you can keep loving it.
Yeah, I often think about this when I watch the Magic finance people, the people who buy boxes to invest, and the people who look at the old original cards that are worth a bunch of money and things like that. They often get mad when Wizards reprints something, or worry about how a new set's going to devalue old cards or things like that. And I always think, like, your cards that you're hoarding only have value because people want to play with them. And the moment the game goes from being accessible to being so inaccessible that new players refuse to join, that's the time when your investments start going down again, right? And they don't seem to get that there's a fine line between accessibility and keeping your the value of your cards afloat and it dying, right? And everything you've
capitalism, man.
Yeah. But I mean, if a franchise
And Derek says, 13 episodes in, and now it matters.
Wow, it always comes back to capitalism.
Huh. Fancy that.
Well, I mean, even if you were doing something like chess, let's do something where there's no, chess predates the current capitalist structures, go back to feudalism or medieval China or whatever, and you'll see that if chess doesn't bring in new players, it too will die, because players are always dying or moving on to other hobbies, or for the games that we tend to talk about, they're maybe moving on to a new stage of life where they can't devote time to the game or things like that.
Yeah.
And every time that happens to a player, you need at least one new player just to keep your game on the same level, right? And some of these older games like chess and Go, their popularity ebbs and flows based on how many new people come in at a single time. Chess is super popular right now.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Well, it's the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, that made
But
it
so
a
I
lot
spent
more popular.
about 6 months or a year really getting into chess, and a bunch of my students were into chess, and were bringing chess boards to school, and I was playing against them on chess.com app and all that, and I stopped. I haven't gone back, right? Chess has lost from its peak even a year ago. And there's so many streamers and stuff that have done a good job reaching out to new players, but just attrition comes for us all and comes for every hobby. And if the hobby itself is not reaching out to new players, then the hobby itself will not survive. So if it's something that you care about, you have to keep going. And something Travis pointed out before the podcast started is, Pokemon is the richest franchise on Earth because every couple of years they work on bringing in brand new players, young players,
10-year-old players. That is always their target. Like, every new game, they don't make new games to cater to the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, the 40-year-olds that started playing Pokemon in 1989. They just don't care about those people.
Right.
Every new game has a target audience of 10-year-olds.
Be cooler if they did.
I agree with you. It would be cooler if they did.
Just let you customize the character.
Give me that M-rated Pokemon.
No.
I don't know if I need that. But the idea is true, though. The 10-year-old player base will always be bigger than the older player base.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the way population and human growth and death, human mortality works. Then the number of 10-year-olds will be higher than the number of 20-year-olds.
Let me pitch you this. All right, it's the Pokemon War. Your guys are coming across on amphibious Pokemon. It's D-Day. It's Saving Private Ryan with Pokemon in a game. Tell me you're not playing that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, of course I'm playing it.
You got the Matt Damon character screaming.
You're not going to have as many buyers, though, as Pokemon Silver is.
Yeah.
Exactly. No matter how cool that is, it won't sell as much as Pokemon. Let me think of another one.
A great example of this is Pokemon Coliseum, which was kind of a little bit grittier, and
Yeah, that's true.
it didn't have the numbers that Pokemon Stadium, or I guess at the time it was Gold and Silver, right? Because it didn't have the same audience. Pokemon knows what they're doing. They have put out a few products that are for slightly different crowds, and
Pokemon Arceus is kind of different also, because the Pokemon can attack humans directly in that one.
I think I could be wrong, but I feel like, a fandom that hasn't been able to keep new people coming in is like all the old sports trading card people.
Yeah.
For a long time in like probably from like the 50s and onward to like maybe the 90s, or the 80s, it was pretty popular. But then I feel like it's died. And I feel like the only people that I've ever seen collect any kind of cards are, if not my, mid-30s or older. You don't see kids going out and buying packs of Topps,
that's true.
trading card, and being like, oh, I got the insert baseball player name here.
Yeah.
Benjamin?
I got rookie Jose Altuve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Benjamin, if you're a real fan, name 3 baseball players.
That aren't the Astros.
That aren't the Astros?
Oh, no.
Sure, Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Otani.
Who?
Babe Ruth, Jackie Robinson.
Aaron.
Ken Griffey Jr.
I mean,
Exactly. Characters that haven't been around, or not characters, but famous people from like 40 years ago.
What's the one from Alvin? Nolan Ryan.
oh, right. Yeah.
Nolan Ryan.
Exactly. It's a bunch of old ones.
No, I can name current player. I can name a bunch of
No.
players.
I know you can, but I just feel like that's a fandom. I could be wrong. Maybe that fandom is doing just fine. 'Cause I don't know
you're
why
right.
they're still printing.
Yeah, well, they're still printing because the older collectors have a bunch of money and are still out there. But I don't
Hoping.
Yeah, I don't think it's a hobby that's going to last another a generation. And it's been around for 150 years, and now it's kind of moved a little bit. They have the online NFTs.
Yeah, I would think it was a lot more digital
Yeah.
now.
But even then, it's just like, I don't know. I guess because there's not a game built around it, it's like, what's the point of this card? Oh, that's a $400 card. How?
Yeah, it's weird.
That's one thing that's never clicked for me is how is this it's a trading card, but it's like, I guess it's, like,
so it's
the value of getting a set.
Well, its value is tied to how good the player does.
Right.
In
So
the
like
game,
the idea,
right?
if you get a card that's for a certain event, like a rookie card, for example. Well, when they're a rookie, you don't know if they're going to have a great career or not. So 20 years later, they go into the Hall of Fame, and you're like, who managed to actually pick up a card from when this guy was a rookie? It's totally tied to their rarity only. And
Yeah,
right.
I
it is
get
gambling, yes.
that, but I just don't see how the value gets attached to it. It's like, yeah, the person, Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player in history.
Yes.
Yes, say inflammatory comments like that.
Right.
Bring in
What?
the comments.
No,
We're gonna talk
that's not
about King.
inflammatory. That's a fact. That's a fact.
The Larry Bird fans are reeling right
I
now.
agree with you, but there's going to be people talking
Anyone
about
who's like
Kobe,
LeBron is better.
Kobe and
yes,
LeBron.
comments. Let them
No, they're
flow
not.
in.
Anyway, but what I'm saying though, Michael Jordan, a great player, the greatest. But if I have his card, it's like, cool. It's a picture on cardboard that does nothing else. I don't get that.
Yeah. Now they have started doing things like we cut up a Babe Ruth jersey and stuck pieces of that jersey in these packs.
Mm-hmm.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Stuff like
They've
that.
started
Yeah,
doing
you have ones that have like game
That is
worn
absolutely
jersey,
wild.
and so of course there's only a very limited number of those cards.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the magic secret lair that says, we cut up one of Gavin Verhey's ties.
Yikes. I mean, my brother has a
And-
piece of Michael Jordan's jersey from one of his away team jerseys, one of the white ones, I believe.
Mhm.
And it's just like a little 1-inch by 1-inch square of that jersey. And it's in a display case, so it's like sealed. And then above it, it's got a picture from the game that he wore it.
Yeah. Well, and see, the cards have value for the exact same reason that square jersey has value. They're rare.
But I mean, like,
and
the
they
jersey is like he wore it,
Sure.
Like, that's
Sure.
physically the card. Anyway, that may be a little off topic, but I don't think they've done a good job of keeping new people coming, and so it will die within a generation or two.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I do think you're right that collectible trading cards for things not collected to a game
Right.
are going down.
But trading cards themselves,
Like sports cards, even things like, I don't know, Star Wars character cards. If it's not collected to a game, their value
Yeah.
goes way down.
Yeah.
Their market value. Their sentimental value for the collector is obviously whatever value they pay.
And I guess, a lot of it being sentimental value is maybe what's keeping new people from coming in, because it's like, I'm not going to pay $900 for a Nolan Ryan card. Like this guy who I never saw play a game.
right?
Is that the guy who makes sausages at H-E-B?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that my butcher? I think that's my local butcher. I didn't know he played baseball.
Is Nolan Ryan still alive?
He's pretty old, but he's still alive. Yes.
Okay.
He lives in
Don't get on
Alvin,
to me for that.
just down
I'll have to track him down one day.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
Alvin.
Well, I mean, literally, the Nolan Ryan Expressway runs pretty close to Derek
Yeah.
and Randy's house.
That'd be funny if he just lived on the street named after him.
Yeah.
Side note, that happens in rural Louisiana all the time.
Oh, people living on
Because
the street. Yeah.
someone's been there for
Because they
200
named
years.
the street after the family that lived there.
Yeah, I think several of our family members live on streets with our name. Yeah, or their name.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, all of that to say that if enfranchised players want their game or their hobby to continue, if they want the game developer or designer or manufacturer, if they want those things to keep pushing out product, then they have to welcome new players. You have to lower the gates. You have to open the doors in order to let people in. Hobby gatekeeping is, and I don't know if this is an inflammatory comment, hobby gatekeeping is the most anti-fun and anti-productive thing you can do for the
Amen.
health of your hobby.
Mm-hmm.
If you just tell people that you're not good enough to play my game, oh my god, you're just shooting your game in the
Yeah.
foot. Because at one point, you were a new player. Like, every enfranchised player must remember that they were once a new player. And the things that got them into it are still working on getting new players in. If they let...
Be the person that you wish you had known when you were getting started, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for real.
You know, if you're like, hey, I had a hard time getting into this game, so should they, that's a bad attitude.
Yeah.
You know, I had a hard time. I wish I had someone to help coach me or encourage me. Be the encouragement.
I had to work at minimum wage for
Exactly.
$3 an hour, and no one helped me out.
Oh my God, yeah.
Derek, I knew you were going to say something because
Yep,
I was thinking
it too.
because I was thinking it.
Don't economy gatekeep us.
Right.
Yeah.
I wish someone would forgive my loans.
There,
Be the loan officer you wish you had.
God, and I would.
right.
Economy
Oh, man.
gatekeeping.
Be the Department of Education you wish you had.
I think there are times and places.
Dad, Mom,
There
don't
are
listen to
times
this
and
one.
places where character needs to be built. The kids need to do the chores. Don't be the parents you wish you had.
The dad
Right.
from Calvin and Hobbes. He's building character. I'm just getting wet. It's raining.
Because I look back and see the character I built, but there's a time and place for that. And honestly, Magic is not the place I want to build character. There is good place. I mean, perseverance, learning. There's lots of character to be built, but it's not your job as an enfranchised player to force someone to build character in your game, right? Like, you're not their dad.
Yeah.
Anyways.
You're not my dad.
So yes, yeah, be that person. So I think that takes us on to the next one. If we're talking about barriers to entry, don't be the barrier to entry. What does that mean?
Yeah, be an open door. Love is an open door. Okay.
I guess some other barriers besides, what he meant is, like, I know I've played quite a few games, and I guess I'm kind of gatekept by the game itself by hitting paywalls. I know a lot of mobile games are bad about this, and, you get that initial dopamine hits from leveling up real fast and getting new gear, discovering new stuff, and it can be kind of fun. But to me, that's one of the biggest gatekeepers is when it's to a point of I open the app, I do daily chores, and then after hopefully a month of doing my daily chores, I'll get another dopamine hit unless I start paying to speed up the process. Yeah, those are...
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, time to uninstall this. I probably do that like maybe once a month. I'll just get a new game, go through it real quick, and paywall. So some of them don't always do that, but that's a pretty bad majority. But I guess that's what I get for playing free games and not paying for the game itself.
Yeah, I mean, this happens at the beginning of lots of games. If there is a wall, any type of wall, to getting into the game, a player is more likely to stop. They're just not going to be interested in putting in time or, in the case you just described, Randy, money in order to get those same dopamine hits again, in order to have the same entertainment.
Yeah. And, sometimes it's not even just like a paywall. I've played quite a few games where it's literally just the user interface, the UI is just so
unintuitive.
Yeah, unintuitive. Too many like sub menus and sub screens. I gotta click here to get to this to find the one thing I was looking for. But then I forget how I got there. So it's like, oh crap! Now I gotta spend another 2 minutes going through every option to find that one option again.
That's how I felt about Gundam Battle Gunpla Warfare. Is, man, to do anything you had to click so many menu options, and if it weren't for the IP, I probably would have quit it pretty early on.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I've tried playing a lot of like Japanese games and RPGs, mostly RPGs, and woof, the menus. I mean, they're so in depth, which the right person would enjoy that. There's a lot of things going on like crafting systems and alchemy, whatever. But boy, every time I see that I have to, I'm like, how do I get to my inventory screen? And when I feel stupid in a game, I don't want to keep playing the game.
I only played Starfield for about 3 hours so far before I downloaded Phantom Liberty and started doing that instead. But Starfield's inventory is enormous. Just the variety of items. And without knowing what each item's used for, I have a hard time saying like, wow, I need to stick around to learn all of this?
Yeah.
In order to do Skyrim in space? Like, I'm here for Skyrim in space.
Yeah. Oh, man. Derek, what's the other space game that Brandon put like 10 grand into?
Star Citizen?
Star Citizen. Star Citizen
What?
is a gorgeous game. I really want to like it, but man, is it just because it's so in depth with like the flight systems and stuff like that. And I guess since it's early access, the tutorial sections aren't there for you, but it is not intuitive.
Oh, okay.
It is. I mean, maybe I'm a big dum-dum, but I can kind of get it. But then I'm like, why am I out of fuel? I didn't know I needed fuel. I mean, it's a game, but I'm hoping maybe they change that. But that's super unintuitive, and it's really hard just to kind of figure out everything on your own.
If I could double back to Starfield, I played it for like I think 3 hours maybe, and they told me to go to the first planet. I'm like, what am I doing here? I guess I wasn't paying attention to the dialogue or something. I had to go talk to someone. I'm landing here, and I'm just like, there's no markers, there's no information about what I'm supposed to be doing, and maybe there is. I just can't find it, but. Now I'm so put off by that I don't want to give it another chance.
I'm sure that I'll give it another chance someday.
Not today.
But I'm way too into Cyberpunk.
Yeah,
right
and kind of what you were talking about, Travis, with having all this stuff in your inventory. Someone I watch on YouTube, The Lazy Peon, he does reviews and stuff like that for MMOs. And he had a good point the other day when he was talking about things he doesn't like in the MMO genre. And it's like when they put all this junk to fill up your bags in your inventory in a game, and it's just like half of it has no use. It's just a gray item that's meant to be picked up and sold. And it's like, yeah, I guess that's a way to make a little bit of money, but it's not worth it because it's annoying to the player to put that in there. Yeah. And then now I've got to do bag maintenance for 2 hours to go through all my bags, figure out what's useful.
That has been a turnoff in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. That's one thing I don't like on Baldur's Gate.
Only one thing in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, that's only my only gripe.
Is the inventory.
That's why
management.
my first mods that I download are going to be the one that gives you 9,999 pound carry weight. And then there's another mod that gives you 21 bags, and everything auto filters into those bags. So it's like trash, gems, armor. It's gonna like sort all that for me, and I don't have to worry about my carry weight.
Ooh,
so that's my first mods that I will be downloading on my next playthrough, because it's like I want to look at all the cool stuff that they've put in there, but sometimes it's like I don't have room for it. I mean, I've literally logged on. I only had like 2 hours to play, and I spent the entire 2 hours doing inventory management.
Oof.
And then I was like, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Save.
That's happened to me in Divinity before, and obviously they're the same developer.
Yeah, so just stop putting stuff in your game that doesn't need to be there. That's just there to either, like some games do it because they're trying to sell you a resource of, hey, pay $6.99 a month and you have infinite bag space. Ugh. Or I don't want to come back and play this game because I haven't played in 2 months, and then I open up my inventory and what the hell is all of this?
Wouldn't it be nice in Baldur's Gate or Divinity if there was like a just junk conversion where I didn't have to go to a
just automatically destroyed it into money,
where I didn't have to go to a vendor?
Oh, man.
Yeah, just let me convert this golden goblet into cash.
What a dream that would be.
Yeah.
What kind of magic curse heresy are you talking about?
I mean, I live in a world of magic. Teach me a spell called gold melting.
Right.
Shape metal, come on.
Teach me a spell called counterfeit
There you
gold, and I can transform junk dishes and plates and cups into...
Shopkeepers don't want you to know this one little secret.
Those are definitely some barriers to entry. Most game designers are consciously trying to reduce barriers. They're going to try to lower the barrier to entry as much as they can, while preserving the game's depth for experienced players. There are probably really experienced players who love inventory management. I can't fathom that as being a fun part of the game, but there are people out there who love resource management and who just get kicks off of being as efficient as possible.
Yeah, but I think that's the game, Factorio, or Derek, you play some of those kind of games.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I don't like having to sit there and try to sort stuff, but that's what Justin's for. He likes it. He's my little inventory goblin.
I mean, like, I never played Minecraft, but I know that Derek, you were deeply into Minecraft for a long time. Isn't inventory management like a part of the base game?
Yeah, basically, you do a lot of mining, obviously, and
Yeah.
you never know if you're gonna need it. So, like storing all this dirt, all this stone, all these different, things that you have to collect. Yeah,
Yarn.
things you might need for later. Storing and managing those for a future that may never come.
I just remembered. You just triggered a memory for me.
A core memory.
I know it wasn't intentional, I'm sure. But Derek, I kind of feel like your gate kept me whenever I started playing Minecraft.
You know what? I actually remembered that the same time earlier. I was just like, he won't remember. I'll let it go.
No, you brought up Minecraft, and I was like, no, I remember this because Derek was big into it, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. I downloaded the game. I joined their server.
So funny.
Him and some other guy are in like free creator mode where they can fly around and just generate anything that's needed, any resource, any material. And I'm over here, and they're like, no, we put your profile like real life mode. So you constantly have to be like, all right, I got to go beat up some trees to get my wooden pick.
Yeah, so it was definitely a moment of gatekeeping.
Yeah.
Because we had started on like survival where you have to manage like food and health and all that stuff. And we had gotten to the point where we needed to like really go crazy, go stupid with like building. So we were like switched in creative to like, we were like doing like challenges and games and stuff like that. And Randy joined, and this is 10, 12 years ago now.
It was a very long time ago.
That was like, he shouldn't get creative mode because he doesn't appreciate what the normal game is yet. But that wasn't for me to decide.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only was I in survival mode, they would just kind of pop in every now and then and be like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, hey, look at this castle. It's really basic, rudimentary stuff. But to me, I had been working hours on it. And I was like, yeah, this is my castle. This is this. And
it was a large box. I remember.
It was a big. I mean, I tried to fancy it up, but it was basically a big, large box.
I remember that castle.
But I had to build it myself.
Oh my god.
Anyway, and then he took his little magic wand, and he had a thing where he could just make all of my stones in the castle turn into like pink wool. So now my entire castle is just a big, pink, fluffy wool palace. And I was like, cool. Can you turn it back? Nah.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me.
I really think it was.
That wasn't me. I think that was Richard. So that's not a prank I would play on someone.
Sounds like something that you pushing up on someone who's not here to defend themselves.
Well,
maybe.
So I think what y'all are demonstrating is a larger point that, sometimes it can be the experienced players that are the barriers to the newer players. Right? So Derek, he liked being powerful. He liked feeling good. He liked feeling I accomplished something because I was here from the beginning. And
yeah.
Look at all that I know about the game. Look at me wield my knowledge.
He didn't have to struggle like I did.
Right? This is something we've talked about on several News from the Warfront segments. People like to win, and so they'll often go curb stomp somebody with their $2,000 deck, or they'll pull out their level 9 deck against a bunch of people playing precons. Or things like that. That just seems to be a recurring theme in fandoms and in game groups. And it's because people like to win. But you do that too much to somebody like Randy, and he's going to say, you know what? I'm not going to play with you anymore.
Minecraft lasted maybe a couple months before I was like, all right, I'm done.
Exactly. If Derek had let you in on the better stuff, you might still be playing it, right? But you didn't want to have to grind that way. And you didn't, he was messing with your progress and showing off.
Again, that wasn't me.
It was probably you. And
Derek Silver's here. Now there's no way to verify.
I've killed the only witness. So now it's my word versus Randy.
I do forgive you.
Aw, that's good.
Thank you.
To learn to forgive.
We've made progress.
That's really sweet. As we talked about in episode, I think it was episode 5, teaching your game, that new players need opportunities to win, to feel invested, to want to continue, and there's only 2 ways they can win: against other new players or against you, the enfranchised player. And if you're the one who brought them into the game, they need to feel like they're getting better when they play against you. And so you can't be turning their castles into pink wool palaces. You need to be encouraging them and showing how great that is, and even showing how it's better than a castle you built when you were at that stage and things like that, and giving them kind of the steps for making them feel better.
Now, to be fair, he did, when I asked questions about how does this work and how does that work, he did, help me with the learning curve, because I didn't have
That's good.
I guess the base game tutorial survival version,
Right, you just jump right into it.
Yeah, so he did
Jump into y'all's specific server.
Yeah.
he did help like that,
Yeah.
so give him a little credit.
You know what? I've got the perfect example for this. As of a few minutes ago, the Astros won the ALDS series. That's the American League Division Series.
Per usual. Thank you.
Per usual. They're now going on to their 7th consecutive American League Championship Series. And I bring that up because there are many people who became fans of the Astros over this run. Right, especially us being here in Houston. A lot of people who probably didn't follow baseball, maybe they were football fans or basketball fans, and now, you know what? Winning brings in a lot of people. And I see people around, lots of my own friends or coworkers, who are like, oh yeah, were you watching them in 2014? Do you remember when they called up Altuve? Were you there when they went to the World Series in 2005? Or I was there when the Killer Bees, and they've got their old jerseys and their old... all the different gears, and they talk about, they talk about all sorts of stuff. Now, I have been there for pretty much my whole life, but people will still do it for me. Like they'll talk about the great teams we had in the 80s and how real fans know who such and such is, and I'm like, well, sorry, I wasn't born then.
Yeah, what do you want me to do about that?
Right, but I got to the Astros as soon as I could. I've been a fan since I was 5. I mostly don't get this directed at me because I'm one of those people who goes out and learns everything I can about the things I'm passionate about. But I don't want to stop people from liking the Astros. I want to be able to talk to the new fans about, hey, isn't this fun? Isn't this exciting? And I don't want to turn them away because they weren't there 10 years ago, because they didn't stick through the tough times. They shouldn't have to. If the team's bad on the field, go watch somebody else, right? Or go play a different game. And so,
I mean, even the word fair weather fan.
Yeah. Well, I think that's okay. Sports isn't a job. It's you don't have to. It's supposed to be fun. If they stop putting something fun on the field, you don't have to give them your money or time. Now, I happen to enjoy the sport, and I don't mind when the team's losing because I'll just follow other teams and still root for my team while they're losing. But that doesn't make me a better fan. It just makes me a different fan.
Yeah, I mean, it happens in sports, happens in television, movies. How many times have you heard, oh, you like the TV show of whatever, you like the Harry Potter movies?
Oh, yeah.
Have you even read the books?
Yeah, all of that.
It's all condescending, too. It's like, who gives a
It's like, oh, you liked Infinity War? Did you read the comic?
So since you didn't know that, you can't really appreciate this movie.
It's so annoying.
Yeah, those sorts of things make people feel bad for being fans, for wanting to get involved, and all you're doing is killing your hobby.
Yeah, all that person would have needed to say is like, yeah, the movie was good, and so is the comic.
Yeah, invite them. Say, hey,
invite them. Yeah, say, hey, do you want to borrow
Or if you
mine?
like that, you'll probably really like this other thing. Check it out. Show them how to check it out, right? Show them how to log into Crunchyroll.
Yeah.
To see season 2 of whatever anime they just found out. And don't overwhelm them. This goes back to teaching your game and all the stuff we talked about earlier with hitting a wall. If you dump 10 seasons of something on... I'll give you the perfect example. I have friends who are into Doctor Who. And I have seen maybe 4 episodes of Doctor Who. And I liked it. But I am unwilling to go and watch... what are they on? The 14th, 15th Doctor?
Benjamin said,
I refuse.
On moral grounds.
I just don't have time to start from 15 doctors, and some of them multiple seasons. I'm sure, I get probably most of them multiple seasons. I just can't. Maybe when I'm retired, and my kids have gotten into the 37th Doctor, and they sit me down to watch 25 through 37, maybe I'll be able to do it. But it's just gotten to a point where I can't. And because I know that every Doctor Who fan, if I say I like Doctor Who because I've watched 1 season of it and I'm interested in getting into more, will shut me down for trying to get into more episodes of it. Because they would be like, well, who's your favorite Doctor? Well, the only one I've seen. What? Well, this other Doctor was way better. and they'll just go on, and I just, even the nice ones.
This doctor's a girl.
Well,
Oh!
and even the nice ones who won't do that, they're like, oh, well, let me tell you which seasons you got to watch. You got to watch seasons 2, 3, and 4 of the first Doctor. You got to watch seasons 1 and 5 of the second Doctor. And I'm like, okay, that it's too much already, right? So even the fans that mean well, those are the ones who've turned me off because I just see how much there is that I'm overwhelmed. And we're gonna talk about Universes Beyond later. Just the magic. Like, I love the Doctor Who cards.
I think the design on the Doctor Who cards is
yes, I'm excited to play with them.
They look
but
really cool.
It goes to prove that I don't want to get into Doctor Who because I just see how much lore is just right there on those cards, and I realize it's just the very tip of the iceberg because it's just cards, and I'm scared. Like, I can't do it.
When I had students last year, just like saying the words Naruto or One Piece could turn me off, just because I know how deep they are, and the kids don't want to talk about the beginning. That's not what they're interested in because they're experts. They've seen it all, and they don't want to go back to the beginning for somebody who's uninitiated.
Yeah, the casual fan.
Well, what can enfranchised players do? You know, if we are the more experienced Magic gamers, or if we are the fan that's deep into a franchise or something, what can we do? Experts in general can often see the flaws in a system. Famously, this comes up every new set about Magic, is that Magic players will complain about every new set. Yeah. And people who have been playing for a long time can see the flaws in each new card or each new set, or in business practices or whatever. They think they're qualified to comment on it because they've been playing for a long time.
Okay, here's an example for me. I used to play Marvel Strike Force. Free-to-play game, but to really like be good, you needed to pay to win to get these all new power characters every week. And the prices started going up. The quality of game we were getting was going down. They were cutting corners, and just overall, you could just see that the game was in decline. You know, like, oh, last month or last time we did this event X amount of months ago or something, they offered this, and this, and now this month it's supposed to be the same thing, but they're only offering this and this. And it's like you could like see their weaknesses, or you know how cheap they're being, how stingy they're being, and it kind of falls on us and franchise players to kind of like rally and not gripe, but like, you know, say, hey, fix this, do better on this.
Yeah, vote with your pocketbook.
Yeah, like the new players don't know any different, so they're not super upset.
Well, they might be, like Randy was when he described hitting a paywall.
Oh, yeah.
Or hitting bad UI. If the quality of the game goes down, their likelihood of getting new players is going to go down.
Yeah,
also.
so it's like a fight to try to keep your game alive.
It's like a bad feedback loop.
Sometimes they take the wrong message, like, oh, they hate this event, instead of like, oh, they hate that we cut all these benefits, so we'll just never run this event again. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. This also reminds me of when they were doing the first Sonic movie, and Sonic had those awful teeth.
And everything.
Oh, the eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know about the eyes, but I know the teeth.
Sonic had like human teeth, like molars, canines, each individual tooth.
But yeah, his eyes,
each individual tooth.
I think his hands. Animated. I think almost every single thing about the character was changed from trailer 1 to trailer 2.
The fans like really stood up and said, this is the worst thing we've ever seen. And they actually went back and reanimated him with a whole new design. And I think that movie actually did pretty well. I mean, at least got a sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was also a game that was going to come out, I think this year, called Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League or something like that. It was like a Suicide Squad game. And I mean, it was, I think, like a month away from coming out, and they put out some gameplay stuff. And it was like real pay-to-win, loot crate garbage. And it was clowned online so hard that they actually took the game back to development to, I guess, kind of rebuild it from the ground up because no one was willing to like buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Wild. Yeah, so these examples demonstrate that it is okay for enfranchised players to criticize their game or criticize the hobby. When they see flaws or when they see weaknesses or they see something about their game is in decline, it's normal to care about the health of the game and want it to continue. And developers do need to see criticism. We in the Magic sphere, whenever they came out with the Secret Lair Walking Dead, there was a huge uprising of criticism about those cards because of the incredibly limited access to them. And the fact that they were mechanically unique. You were never going to see these cards anywhere else unless you spent the $40 to $50 on this exact box right now. And you have a week to do it.
Yeah.
You have a week to decide. Since then, whenever they've done these Universes Beyond Secret Lairs like Stranger Things, they have made a change and said, okay, we're going to make Magic the Gathering IP versions of them, and we'll release them in booster packs. So now, if you want 11 the Mage, it won't be called 11 the Mage, but you can still have the card that does all the same things and costs the same and has all the same effects.
And that was because people constructively criticized, like, hey, this is a garbage thing. Because that, like you said, at first they weren't going to ever reprint them. It's like, well, it's one and done. You have a week to decide if you're going to buy it now.
And they still haven't. Those
No, yeah, they're out.
No,
They're
wait,
out.
that's not true. They are. I remember Lucille having, what is it, Gisa's
Yeah.
shovel?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so never mind. Yeah, they did eventually backtrack and come out with new versions. But they wouldn't have done that unless the player base had come out and criticized that decision and said, this is what's important for the health of your game. Players like us and people who are criticizing their game, you need to be wary of your audience. If you complain to a new player, or if you complain to someone who is considering getting into the game, then it might drive them away. They might be saying, wow, if Wizards of the Coast is making all of these terrible decisions and they don't care about their player, why should I even get into it? But remember what we said earlier is that if you want your game to continue and stay healthy, it needs new players all the time.
Yeah, and even if the game dies, like if Wizards went out of business tomorrow, Magic would still exist for decades. But it would slowly dwindle to nothing. You're curating the people who are going to still be there with you when Hasbro goes another direction or whatever, right? And you don't want those people, when you try to pull out your favorite pet deck, to be like, is that the game you said sucked all the time? That you thought the card... Why would I want to try that now?
Yeah, totally true. You need to make sure that you're saying more good about your game than bad if you're trying to get new people into it.
Yeah, if you like your game, show it.
Yeah, and that goes back to our first episode.
Yeah.
If you like your game, show it.
So.
All right, Benjamin, and let's talk about Universes Beyond.
When Universes Beyond first came out with The Walking Dead, a lot of people hated it. And a lot of people still hate the idea of seeing different IPs in Magic, right? IPs being intellectual property. So Magic has its own story, lore, characters, and it has basically a consistent flavor from beginning to end. Now, there are sometimes different planes that we might visit that...
Yeah, there are some outliers in there.
Yeah, but the basic, like...
Kamigawa Neon Dynasty being one that sticks out for me.
Well,
not to say I don't like it. I like Cyberpunk.
Sure. No, it sticks out, but they're still planeswalkers. The magic is basically the same. The colors of Magic are basically the same. The idea that there are legendary creatures that do things, right? Because of the consistency of how Magic works in the multiverse, right? In the entire, what do they call it? In
the, I don't know, dimension? The
Planes?
entire...
Well, what do they call the group
The Blind
of planes?
Eternities?
Man, I don't remember. Dominaria or Dominia, I think is what they used to call it. Dominia was like the... Anyways, in the entire multiverse of Magic, there's a consistent rule set of how the lore works, right?
Yeah.
And if you introduce things like Walking Dead or Stranger Things or Transformers, or they just recently came out with Princess Bride and...
Well, we were just talking about Doctor Who.
Right? Those places have different...
Godzilla made an appearance.
Yeah.
Dead.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah, all of those have different art styles, different lores, different explanations for how magic works, and they can never be tied together. In Magic's storyline, you have planeswalkers that go from one place to the other, so even if they are very different style-wise, you have characters that are consistent. Or you might have more than once had a cross-plane thing where one plane attacks another, or where you have a threat to the entire multiverse that characters from different planes have to step in to deal with. And you just cannot, at no point is Optimus Prime going to show up to fight Elish Norn, right? Like,
Yeah.
And so it can be jarring for some players to.
Oh, My Little Pony.
Oh yeah.
That was another one.
Yep, yeah.
We must not forget.
Yep, Rainbow Dash is never going to be completed by Jin Gatachi. It just is what it is.
Somewhere out there, that fan art exists.
Oh, I'm sure, and I never want to see it. And so there are people who hate it, and then there are people. I have loved all of the Lord of the Rings. That was a big crossover there.
How could we forget about that?
I don't know.
I blacked out.
And that set was actually amazing, and it's close enough.
Oh, it was an awesome set. It was a huge homage to what started medieval fantasy magic in the first place.
Yeah.
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 I think the difference with that Lord of the Rings set, though, that I personally have a problem with Universes Beyond, it's that it's not Viggo Mortensen as Aragorn. It's, a completely new rendition.
Well,
as opposed to like Universes Beyond when it's like, oh, there's David Tennant.
Oh,
or there's
yeah.
some other famous, whatever the guy is from Walking Dead is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's the Jeffrey Dean Morgan?
Well, yeah, I was trying to think of who Rick was, but yeah, Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Right.
Also,
Oh,
like
no, for me, it's all about
real,
Negan.
Yeah, these real people who are now tied. Like, I feel like playing that card is like ties to like whatever they do outside of that role, or like what they do in a personal life, I guess. Like, as if Jeffrey D. Morgan decided to go,
Be a crazy person.
beat someone on the street or something like that. Now I'm like, I feel like this card's ruined now.
Right. There's another one that the Lord of the Rings Universes Beyond was an homage to the books and not to the movies. So there's going to be some people who like it and some people who don't.
Yeah.
And so everyone has an opinion about Universes Beyond. Most of them are strong opinions one way or the other.
I have noticed, and this, chime in the comments if I'm wrong, please. I have noticed that the people's opinions on Universes Beyond are almost always tied to their opinion on that IP.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
If you like Jurassic Park, you'll probably like the Jurassic Park cards. I think that people's opinions about Universes Beyond are tied to their opinions on the IPs, and that might not be the most philosophically pure way to think about Universes Beyond. Do y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Benjamin, maybe you can say it in a better way.
Well, yeah, it seems like people judge the Universes Beyond not from a perspective of is this good for Magic or is this good for My Little Pony, but based on do they like both of those things. Now, obviously, the only people commenting on Universes Beyond are Magic players, so all of these Universes Beyond sets exist because some people in the Magic world also like that other game world story, whatever, right? The crossover of Doctor Who and Magic exists, right? The crossover of Walking Dead and Magic fans exist. And so I think what you were trying to say is that it seems like they don't judge Universes Beyond based on whether or not they think that the crossover
or Warhammer.
is good.
That's another one.
Oh,
we
yeah,
didn't mention.
Warhammer, right? It's not that they care whether or not it's good for the game. It's only about whether or not they like My Little Pony, Warhammer, Lord of the Rings, whatever. And so if they like it, then they suddenly think it's good for the game. And if they don't like it, then they don't suddenly think that. That's not true of everyone, I don't think. But it's true of a huge cross-section of players where they'll get upset if it's not. And I get it, because if I like Doctor Who, I'm fine putting the 14th Doctor into my deck. But if I don't like Doctor Who, or I'd never heard of it, or it has no meaning to me, then putting Doctor Who in my deck is not as fun. If it's an IP I don't like, it could be actively unfun to try to put that character that I don't like into my deck and have to play it, because at least until they release regular versions, I don't have a choice.
Or just because it's so mechanically perfect for the deck you want to put it in.
Yeah.
Even though you don't like the character or the actor in real life, God forbid.
Yeah.
In that situation, proxy.
Yeah.
Well,
or
they'll
alternate
eventually
art.
release a.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Well, I guess maybe not of the Doctor Who one, but of the other stuff, they'll come out with something, I think. But we should also kind of accept Universes Beyond. Like, I know I said that I don't like that one thing, but this is Wizards of the Coast trying to reach out to new players.
Exactly.
The Doctor Who people who don't know about Magic, but now there's a new product. Like, oh, let me check this out. This looks fun.
And it has
maybe
worked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It has absolutely worked. People
So we
who've
need to
never
chill.
played Magic before got into it from some of these secret layers or from some of these events.
Yep. Absolutely. What we need to keep in mind is if you see someone playing with or saying they want to buy or inquiring about these universes beyond, let them. They're interested. They're seeing something that they like, that they want to have fun with, and it's not your job to tell people what they like. Like I personally enjoy spicy dill pickled kettle cooked chips, and I know lots of people who don't, and it doesn't matter. Let me eat my chips, and you go eat your flaming hot Cheetos. Why people want to ruin perfectly good Cheetos by making them flaming hot, I don't know. but I like my own spicy thing with dill pickled chips. Whatever. You do you, I'll do me. There's enough chips for both of us, right? And the same thing applies to Universes Beyond or any other aspect of your hobby that you think, oh, well, real fans don't like this. Real fans only like to enjoy it the way I enjoy it. I'm the true fan by which all other fans should be judged. And if you've never said that, but you've acted that way, it's the same thing. And you're ostracizing players and you're reducing the value of your hobby because you've gatekept people based on their personal preferences.
Yeah, there's a phrase that I've heard, don't yuck someone else's yum.
Yeah.
If somebody else likes something, let them like it, even if it doesn't work on you. You know, that means the developer's intention, whatever they were thinking when they created whatever they are that you didn't like, if it's working on somebody else, then that means their intention worked. And they're going to get a new player, and that new player is going to help your game to grow.
Yeah, there's a common phrase in Magic design where they'll say, you know what, this thing just isn't for you. And people hate hearing that. I've noticed how often people are just upset when a product is not for them. And if other people are like, hey, I like this, and they go out and buy it, people get mad at them. Like, why are you supporting this product that's not for me? And this is where that comes in. They're making products that are not for you. And I think Wizards had sometimes used that to make poor decisions regarding pricing or things like that. And I'm not excusing that. That goes back to what we said earlier about feel free to criticize your game or their developers when they make truly bad decisions and need to change things. But if it's like a beginner's product, let the beginners have it. You know, it's who it's for. It's not for you.
Yeah. I think there are some beginner boxes that came out for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
There was like a beginner dual deck set. And they used to do those beginner Planeswalker decks. And I think I've still seen every once in a while those deck builders toolkits.
Yeah, they're still around. Yep.
That are just full of commons, draft chaff, and basic land.
Yeah.
But that product is for someone.
Yeah.
And when I started playing, I bought them.
That's for like your 8-year-old nephew who doesn't need
might not appreciate
a mana crypt yet.
Well, and you know what? The commons and uncommons are typically less confusing. And so and so if you're
they have one or two keywords that are important to learn.
Yeah, those are the perfect product. In fact, I might buy a couple for my kids, even though I have more than enough cards for all of us, and I don't need more commons and uncommons. But if my kids...
The box will have done the curating for you.
Exactly. If I
so
need
you
to
don't
get
have
my
to
kids
search through your boxes
into the game, there's no better way than to find a beginner product and let them experience the fun of learning from the beginning. Like we talked about earlier, going back to the beginning. I don't want to do it, but there's no way I can give my kids one of my complicated decks and expect them to enjoy the game. It's just never going to happen.
What, you don't think Margaret could pilot Trace in the Infinite?
Absolutely not. I can't even pilot Trace in the Infinite.
Oh my god.
Well, and to be clear, like some of y'all might not be able to, right, without practice first. And y'all are
for sure.
And y'all are enfranchised players, but it's got a lot of complicated cards and a lot of complicated interactions, and that's the whole point, right? Like there are products out there that are not for me, but they're for somebody. And if I get mad at Wizards for making them, or I get mad at people for buying them, or I get mad at people for enjoying them, then I'm the problem, not those other people. It's me, right? And the other thing here is I remember I used to buy a lot of these products or a lot of cards that I knew were not good because I enjoyed them and I was going to try to make them work, you know, just for fun.
Yeah.
And I actually think I mentioned this in our Get Good episode where I would sometimes go online and play these strange or crazy decks that I knew weren't necessarily good, but I just wanted to see how bad were they? Is there a chance I could do something with them? And there would be people who would get upset that I was not playing top tier decks, even after I beat them. Like I would beat them and they would be like, I can't believe you're playing this trash. I'm like, okay, so it's not a tier deck, but obviously it's good enough to hang,
Yeah.
If I'm trash, then what are you?
right?
Got him.
But they would be upset because I was not playing the established meta, right? And so they're
Yeah.
like, that's not acceptable. And if I had been a new player who had just stumbled on these cards, that would have been a big turnoff.
Yeah, major turnoff.
Yeah,
Why should I play if other people are going to treat me that way?
right. Yeah, I like what you said. Don't yuck someone's yum. If they have different taste than you, then let them buy the broccoli and you can buy the asparagus. It's fine.
Ugh, asparagus. Yuck.
I love asparagus.
I do too.
I had one more thing I wanted to say about Universes Beyond and Magic specifically, and it kind of goes with how I feel about comics and superheroes too. The more IPs, the better.
Yeah.
And not to say that I like them, not to say that I, I've mentioned I haven't watched any Doctor Who, but I think Magic is such a strong game. I think the mechanics of Magic are so fun and complex and engaging that if it takes someone else's, IP fandom and gets them into Magic, they'll stay and keep playing Magic because of the game that it is. They might jump in with Optimus Prime, but they'll keep playing. They'll
Yeah.
keep playing when the next new Magic thing comes out. When Nicol Bolas ever comes back out of his prison, they'll be here because Optimus brought them in. That's the 2 cents that I wanted to throw in. And I think that whatever gets people into playing is going to be good for the game.
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, guys. Okay, that brings us to news from the Warfront. We have got a post this week from our board games. Board games are things that people gatekeep also. They get complex, they get complicated. Even people who think American games are superior to European games and all sorts of stuff like that. So I thought this was an interesting post. The poster says, I love playing any sort of games, and I've been trying to introduce my family to various board games over the last year or two. My wife told me that once we really get the hang of a game, it can be a lot of fun, but that learning each new game is a real slog. I usually see learning the games as part of the experience and don't really mind it. I'm curious if this is a common thing for people trying to get their friends and family into the hobby. The title of this literally said, is it normal for learning games to be a barrier to entry? And the answer is yes. This is pretty normal, that learning something new is a barrier for people.
Yeah, I think I've experienced this. I identify with the poster a lot, where learning the game is part of the experience. I love the mystery. I love discovering what the designers had in mind. I love trying to solve the puzzle. But I have often found that when I teach a game, most people don't have that attitude, right? I think the people with that attitude become hardcore gamers, usually, because they like the puzzle. And if you're trying to get new people...
We mentioned in our Why People Play Games episode, seeing what the game designers were trying to represent through the mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's no better way to dig into that than going through the rule book and saying, okay, they named this step this, and they represented it with these tokens or this resource or whatever.
Right. I think that people like us who enjoy the learning part and not just the playing part have to really learn how to accommodate those people who don't, or they're not going to have people to play games with. And we talked about lots of ways to do that in Teaching Your Game episode 5. But I have 2 main answers. One, I think, is to maybe stick with one game that you've taught them for a little while.
That was my exact thought. I was thinking play fewer games.
Yeah. Introduce one game and play that one a while until some people start to show signs of mastery, and then introduce one new game, and then that becomes your rotation. But of course, stick with that new game for a while so that they get to enjoy the fruits of what they've learned. And become masters and catch up to you and say, okay, learning a complicated game is worth it because I'm going to have lots of fun as a result. So even if they don't enjoy the learning becomes worth it. Whereas if you're switching games a lot, the learning is not as worth it because they spend more time slogging than playing.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it only takes doing this 3 times where you bring games to mastery, and suddenly you've got a rotation where hey, we'll learn this one new game and play it 2 or 3 times so y'all can master it, and then we'll do a round of all 4 of them, and then do that again. We're gonna learn this new game, and we're gonna play it 3 or 4 times so that y'all can master it. And then
Yeah.
and now we have 5 games in the rotation. And it'll get to the point where you don't need to be teaching them new games all the time because your current rotation is enough to sustain you. And who knows, by doing this and building their library of games that they're willing to play, they might start bringing games that they want to try, and then they'll be the ones who are invested. And you won't have to do as much, oh, will they want to learn this or not? Because they'll be the ones who say, I heard of this game or I saw this game and I want to try it.
Yeah, I always think back to the weekend. It was a Memorial Day weekend when Kristen and I came to visit you and Sarah, and y'all had just had Margaret, and we just hung out at your house for 3 days, and we played nothing but Pandemic.
Yeah.
We played Pandemic over and over and over again, and there were even parts where you or me or Kristen or Sarah, any one of us was like, do y'all want to play something else? And all of us were just like, no, I want to get deeper into this game. I want to try out another strategy, or I want to experience this game again. And it feels so good to learn a game really, really well. And sometimes I think about board gaming as a hobby. I look at my shelf where I probably have, I don't know, maybe 30 games. But I think of the ones that I play often, it's like 4. There are 4 that I play often.
Yeah.
And it's because it's the ones that I know really well, and it's the ones that my wife knows really well. Well, those are the ones that we're going to keep playing. We're going to play Marvel Legendary a lot. Mm-hmm. We're going to play Pandemic a lot. Carcassonne is one that comes up with our family. Mm-hmm. Sequence is one that we sometimes bust out with friends who are not big gamers, but it's really, really easy to learn. It's just another one of those games that keeps you busy with your hands while you talk about stuff.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of, I don't know, I could certainly be wrong, but I think there's a class of people who just have that collector brain, Pokemon brain, the trading card game brain, and when they get into board gaming, it extends to that. Yeah. And so they just start collecting games.
Yeah, I'm a member of a Facebook group. It's a Facebook group for people in Texas to try to reach out to other board gamers to set up games. So it's and because I'm a member of that group, I often see when people are selling games and stuff. And I remember, and this is kind of a sad story, but it goes right to what you're talking about, which is there was a guy on there who was helping a friend of his sell off all the games that her husband had bought before he passed away. And there were hundreds and hundreds, and the vast majority of the ones they were selling were new in the box. Some of the ones I bought were still wrapped in shrink wrap because
in the shrink wrap.
Yeah, because this person had bought all these games, I'm sure intending to play them, and had never played them. And the collection was huge, and it was all the games that you've heard of, and tons and tons of games you've never heard of, because they, all the ones that are for hardcore gamers only that this person had just never played.
I'm looking at my shelf right now. I have 2 games, 3. I have 3 games still in shrink wrap.
Yeah, man,
I just have that lizard brain, and whenever I start, that's not counting some of the Blood Bowl teams I have that are unopened. So, I think that happens, and because they collect, they also want to play each of them.
Right.
And Derek, I think you mentioned one time when you were talking about borrowing our decks, is that some people just love variety.
Yeah.
And we buy these games with the hope that we'll get to that variety someday. And it's just like collecting and trying out lots of board games is not conducive to the actual experience of getting into something and learning it really well.
Yeah.
I mean, does that jive with y'all? What do y'all think of that?
No, I mean, I agree. I can't imagine trying to learn several new board games all at the same time. But I'm kind of the opposite. than I think you guys are. I don't super love learning because I don't like to feel stupid.
Sure. No, that's
And
totally normal.
yeah, it's just hard to feel like the new person and like make stupid mistakes because I want to be good at things and win, and it's hard to do that when you're brand new. But also when like, especially with board games, a lot of them can have a huge list of rules and interactions and stuff. And I guess it's ADD or something, but my eyes start glazing over, I start going catatonic, and my brain doesn't want to hear it for some reason.
Yeah.
So it could be a struggle that way for me.
Yeah, that's something that I had written down earlier as like another potential gatekeeping thing is just too many complex rules, like we mentioned before with Kill Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, go back and listen to... Was that in our Teaching Your Game episode also?
Yeah, I think it was.
Episode
Probably,
5, we talked for 40 minutes about this game called Kill Shakespeare. Go check it out.
Just having like a bad intro experience for players, especially on board games, when it's just too much too soon. I think a good thing that games can do is, one, do a practice round, but also maybe just have like easy, normal, hard versions where you can incorporate more of those rules and pieces into the game. But I mean, Kill Shakespeare just took so much to try to learn. I was turned off very quickly by that game because I just zone out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just had way too many moving parts that were hard to grok intuitively.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like putting someone who has no experience with like engineering or cars and being like, hey, can you build this model V8? You have all the parts, no instructions.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think going back to your collector comment where, if you collect a lot, you also want to experience a lot and play a lot. The problem is, especially for a game, if we're talking about decks, that's one thing. You can choose when you play your different decks, and as long as you're not building more decks than you play, so if you play 4 in a night, don't build 4 more decks before the next night you play, you should be fine. But for games, it's not, you don't get that opportunity because you have to get 4 other people or however many other people to agree to play your game with you, and they're not the ones who collected it. You are. So they don't have that same emotional attachment to...
Yep, they don't have the investment.
Yeah, you put in $50 to buy this game, so you feel like you have to do it. And that may not be how you phrase it to yourself, may not be what you admit to it, but your subconscious is telling you, I need to play this game, and I'm willing to learn it and do whatever it takes so that I have a good time and feel like that was money well spent and shelf space well used. And nobody else in your gaming group, in your family, has that attachment that you have.
That literal buy-in.
Yeah, you have bought in. Buying in is so powerful on so many levels. I'm wondering if we can do a whole episode on that. But like, you have the buy-in and they don't. And so you have to keep that in mind. You have to limit how much you try to make them learn in any session, in any period of time. And by way of example, earlier today, Travis, you said, hey, we should try Flesh and Blood. And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't have the bandwidth right now.
I know.
To learn a new game.
Yeah. Speaking of collecting things and them being unopened, I can see 5 Gundam models that I have that are still in boxes. And even though I only see, I think it was 3 games in shrink wrap, I can see lots of games that I've played only once or are not in shrink wrap but bought used and never played.
Yeah.
Oof.
Oh my god, I just spotted a 4th one in shrink wrap.
Oh no. You know what? One of these days, instead of playing Magic, we should just play new board game. Just everybody bring out the games and we can pick 2 or 3
knock them out.
That we can knock out. Yeah.
This was on a different Reddit post as I was scrolling through potential news items, and somebody had said, "Welcome to the land of solo board gaming. We have cookies. Or rather, you have cookies if you make them." That is still an option, and I think it's becoming more and more common. Board game developers are making sure that their game has solo options on how to play them.
Yeah, because the collectors are sitting there going, I can't justify buying new games. I've never played this other one. And this one lets them play it when they're free time, even when they don't have any friends, so that they buy more.
Such a weird state to be in.
Right?
This game that me and Nikki just bought.
Nemesis, right?
Yeah, I think that was it. Anyway, kind of has like a survival horror alien xenomorph kind of vibe looking to it. I think it's a single player option as well. If we do the board game thing, I'll probably bring that.
Cool.
Sounds like a plan. Any final comments before Benjamin's words of wisdom? Derek, behave.
I might.
I might not. Who can say? Depends on how capitalism has affected me today.
And it hasn't been good.
All right, Benjamin, take it away.
I kind of feel like this entire episode has been a word of wisdom, but I just want to start from the very beginning and say, you know what? Let people have fun. Your life will be better and you'll have more fun if you just let other people have fun. You don't need to go around telling people how to feel or judging people for being different from you or deciding whether or not that something makes someone good enough, right? You decide what's good enough for you. You decide what's good for you. You decide what you enjoy and seek that. Make your life better through your own experiences and what you're seeking. And don't worry so much about whether or not someone else meets your expectations. Support them in what they enjoy and do more for yourself, and then that'll make the whole world better.
I love it.
TLDR.
Short, sweet, and
If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all.
Right. That's a great TLDR. Or live and let live.
Here's my TLDR. If you gatekeep your hobbies, you.
Oh my gosh.
Y'all really thought I was going to be the problem.
This is my payment. I don't get payment to be
That's
here.
true.
I get paid to swear
I
on.
paid
That's right.
$5 15 weeks ago.
Oh my goodness, 15.
I
Oh
think.
my god, yeah, we've been doing it for a while.
Hey, we
think we've missed a week or two. Right?
yeah, I think we've missed 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And we're on episode 13.
I'm honestly pretty impressed, guys. I think we've done pretty good.
Yep. Now if we can just get some viewers or listeners.
Yeah, we've got a great show. We just need an audience. Just like how these games require players. Okay, remember that if you have listened to this point and you want to get on the pod or get your comments on the pod or get your questions on the pod, send us an email directly at mymythicalmeta@eldoradogaming.com. Please also like, share, subscribe, leave reviews on your audio formats. Make sure to comment and like on YouTube.
Don't gatekeep the podcast.
Thank you guys so much for being my great friends. Have a great night.
Bye.
Later.
Ciao.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.